Elitch Gardens. It's where memories are made in Denver. You probably think of Elitch's as the perfect place to cool off on a hot summer day as you climb aboard one of your favorite rides. But it wasn't always like this. For generations, the people of Denver have journeyed on foot, on bicycle, in horse-drawn carriage, by steam motor train, or in automobile up 38th Avenue to Elitch Gardens. Visitors have come to marvel at the animals in the zoo, dance up a storm in the Trocadero Ballroom, or walk beside the thousands of flowers in the landscape gardens. Elitch's has been making memories in Denver for 100 years. Throughout the park's history, it has been one of the city's major attractions, drawing citizens and tourists alike. How did it all begin? Our story starts in San Francisco in 1872. John Elitch Jr. met and soon married Mary Elizabeth Hawk. John was working in his father's restaurant. A few years passed and Mary and John decided to move to Denver and open a restaurant called the Elitch Palace. It was very successful. To accommodate the crowds of diners, they moved to another site at 16th and Curtis, later called Tortoni's. To keep the restaurant stocked with fresh fruits and vegetables, John bought the Chilcot Orchard in 1887. This was a 16-acre farm surrounded by the wilderness of northwest Denver, just south of Berkeley Lake. John and Mary dreamed about fixing up and then opening their property to the public. They desired to fill the needs of the surrounding community by providing a park for picnics and family outings. Within a very short time, they moved into a farmhouse near the orchard, and for over 2 years they planted flowers, constructed pavilions to house cafes, a bandstand for concerts, and a small theater pavilion for vaudeville acts. John began developing plans for a permanent theater, but this building would not be completed for several years. Once the word got out, friends of the Elitches donated all kinds of animals to the zoo: lions, bears, camels, wolves, and monkeys. Finally, they were ready for Denver, and Denver was ready for Elitch's. During this time, the Colorado capital city was celebrating its 30th birthday. When Elitch's opened, Denver was a boomtown and considered the metropolis of the Rocky Mountain region. The Denver population was 100,000. Immediately sensing Elitch's as a major community asset, the city of Denver assisted in the development of the Berkeley Motor Train. It transported people directly to Elitch Gardens from downtown. The city officials also had the foresight to widen and beautify 38th Avenue, making access to the park much easier and much more enjoyable. On May 1st, 1890, Elitch Gardens opened for business. Thousands arrived from near and far and stood waiting for the gates to open as Mayor Wolf Londoner addressed the crowd. Minutes later, they entered, and it seemed like everyone was at Elitch's that day. John's friends P.T. Barnum and Mr. and Mrs. Tom Thumb were among the crowd. Admittance was 25 cents for adults and 10 cents for children. Guests enjoyed the immense and beautiful flower gardens, paddled canoes on the lake, and delighted at the antics of the animals in the zoo. Vaudeville acts featured comedians, acrobats, singers, dancers, and musicians. Later that first summer, Mary established Tuesdays as Children's Day and opened the park to Denver school children for picnics and learning experiences. She was present to lead the children in nature studies, teaching them about the flowers and the animals. It was no surprise that the garden's first season was a smashing success, with receipts totaling $35,000. John decided to invest his profits in a traveling minstrel show with P.T. Barnum. While touring the country, John fell to pneumonia and died. Mary was left to face the second season alone and penniless. Without John by her side, Mary sold 100,000 shares of stock in the Elitch Amusement Company at $1 a share. The incoming capital gave Mary the boost she needed to add more attractions to the park and to the zoo. In addition to the day-to-day operation of the gardens, Mary oversaw the completion of the construction of the Elitch Theater as a tribute to her late husband. Mary Elitch gained worldwide recognition, and upon the opening of the Elitch Theater, a local drama critic dubbed Mary as the Lady of the Gardens. The 1891 season was not only the landmark opening of the theater, but it was also the year when the famous aeronaut Ivy Baldwin began his act at Elitch's. Baldwin would ascend in his hot air balloon and then do acrobatic stunts on the ropes hanging from the basket of the balloon. In 1893, the Denver economy, based on silver speculation itself, took took a dive. Thousands of prosperous citizens and many businesses went bankrupt. Unemployment raged rampant. But still, the people of Denver kept coming to Elitch's during the summer. Mary Elitch helped out where she could, even lowering the admission price so that all could come and thoroughly enjoy their visits to the gardens. In the following years, the park incorporated rides, a miniature train that circled the theater, and a carousel which traveled to the tunes of a steam calliope. By 1895, Colorado farms buoyed the state's economy. Prosperity returned. In 1897, Mary formed the country's first summer stock company that featured a new dramatic play opening each Sunday. In 1899, the theater presented Cyrano de Bergerac with 100 actors needed. Many local citizens acted as extras. During the theater's history, audiences have come to enjoy the performances of professional actors, with such immortals as Edward G. Robinson, Douglas Fairbanks Sr., Frederick March, Sarah Bernhardt, and Grace Kelly. To this day, the Elitch Theater remains as one of the oldest landmarks in Denver. In its lifetime, the Elitch Zoological Gardens were, for many years, the only zoo in Denver. The Elitch Zoo boasted the first seals ever born in captivity. New animals never before seen in Denver found their home at Elitch's. Since its inception, free afternoon concerts have been held at Elitch's. In 1897, the park organized the first symphony orchestra in Denver. For 15 years, the orchestra presented concerts as well as light opera every Friday of the summer. Moving pictures were seen for the first time in Denver at Elitch's by way of Thomas Edison's invention. In the early 1900s, Elitch's began to hold weekly dances and classes for young people. But as dancing styles changed in the 1920s and the big band sound became popular, the Trocadero Ballroom opened its doors to all Denver dancers, charging them only 5 cents a dance. Over the years, Denver couples have danced to famous bands led by Harry James, Benny Goodman, Glenn Miller, Guy Lombardo, Lawrence Welk, and many others. As the 20th century began, Mary Elitch married Thomas Long, but was widowed again in 1906. Mary sold the gardens 10 years later to Denver businessman John Mulvihill. Mary remained as a permanent guest and major attraction at the gardens. She continued her activities with the children who visited and was well known for her love for the animals in the zoo. She lived in a cottage built specially for her on the grounds of the gardens until just before her death in 1936. 1916 will be remembered for the year when Elitch Gardens began shipping their carnations, grown in the park's own greenhouses, to florists throughout Denver. The demand was overwhelming, and the management of Elitch's began the operation of the Colorado Carnation Company, an independent business designed to specially market the Elitch flowers throughout the United States. The business gained national recognition and established Elitch Gardens as a horticultural leader. Through the first 30 years of the 20th century, Denver once again enjoyed growth, prosperity, and development. During this time, some of the new mile-high projects were the Civic Center Park and Stapleton International Airport. As other amusement parks sprang up in the city, the visitors demanded more rides and attractions. Under the watchful eye of Mulvihill's son-in-law, Arnold Gertler Sr., the park introduced more exciting rides and attractions that included the Scenic Railway, a gravity-fed ride that was the forerunner to the roller coaster, the Old Mill, a midway, and a new carousel. Following World War II and into the 1970s, Denver grew many times in size and spread in all directions. Even the downtown area began to take on a whole new look. By 1960, the population of Denver reached 500,000. Denver's expansion during the second half of the century was mirrored in the exciting growth of Elitch's. In 1954, Kittyland opened in time to greet the many baby boomers. That year, the famous cowboy Hopalong Cassidy made a special Denver appearance at Elitch Gardens. Keeping pace with the changes in music, the Trocadero continued to feature popular music acts in the 1960s. National groups like the Beach Boys, the Association, Chad and Jeremy, and others played at the Troc. But all over the country, people stopped dancing and ballrooms were vanishing. Despite the efforts of the Elitch management and local groups to keep it open, the Trocadero closed its doors in 1975. As Elitch's grew in popularity, more rides and attractions were added. Since 1970, Elitch Gardens has added a major ride or attraction every single year. Unlike other amusement parks across the country who had the area to expand their parks, Elitch Gardens is landlocked by neighborhoods, and their annual additions could only be replacements due to the limited size of the park. In 1983, Elitch's realized it had grown as much as possible at its present location. A move was the only choice. When a site in Douglas County was being considered, the outcry from Denver was overwhelming. After all, no other amusement park in our nation had the same traditions of culture and entertainment and the same long, loving bond with the citizens that it serves. Only Elitch Gardens. Elitch Gardens has decided to stay in Denver. Because of the strong support from the community and Mayor Pena, the vision of relocation to the Platte Valley will become a reality. The area will provide the park with 70 acres, more than doubling Elitch's present size, from the Platte River North to Spear Boulevard. This site allows Elitch Gardens plenty of room to grow. When completed, Elitch's will be a special place, the anchor for a revitalized downtown. In Denver's plan to become a major convention site with the additions of the new convention center and Denver International Airport, the new Elitch Gardens will assist in promoting Denver as an attractive and competitive convention and vacation center. The new Elitch Gardens will blend the romance of its past with the excitement of the future. Visitors to the new Elitch Gardens will enjoy exciting amusement park rides and games from April through October. Add to this extraordinary gardens, areas for sports and other community events, festivals for every season, year-round restaurants and retail stores, a daycare center, a community theater, lakes, and yes, even a fishing hole. The new Elitch Gardens will feature entertainment for all ages year-round. In addition to its entertainment value to Denver, Elitch Gardens has had a profound economic impact on the city for 100 years. More than 50 million guests have passed through its gates since they first opened in 1890. Over 75,000 young people have been employed throughout the years to serve those guests. This year alone, Elitch Gardens will employ over 1,000 young people. Elitch Gardens is the single largest employer of youth in the state of Colorado. The Gertler family and the employees at the Gardens have continued the traditions of community spirit that were originated by Mary Elitch. Elitch's Ride for the Future grant program was established in 1988, and since that time, the combined efforts of the management and the teenage staff have raised over $30,000 to support teen-related problems in our community. For 100 years, Elitch Gardens has been a part of Denver. And Denver has been a part of Elitch Gardens. From the dreams of John and Mary Elitch to the present and beyond, Elitch Gardens will continue to serve the people of Denver and help to shape millions of more memories for the future generations. For as we all know,
not to see Elitch's is not to see Denver.
Yesterday